Hello and welcome to The Well. I'm your host, Dr. Brendan Arm, Doctor of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, Chinese medicine herbalist, and founder, director of Lotus Integrative Medicine in Santa Monica, California. There's a wealth of health-related information out there, and I'm joined today by this wonderful group of integrative and holistic medical doctors and practitioners to share some of our favorite wellness tips. Please let me introduce you to Bianca Rodriguez, a holistic psychotherapist, Dr. Heath McAllister, a naturopathic doctor and registered herbalist, and Dr. Rob Krochmal, a medical doctor and a practicing physician who is board certified in family medicine, nutrition, and integrative and holistic medicine. So let's begin. Today's topic is coping with Western wildfires.
Yeah, so as anyone in the West knows, and probably most of the country knows, that we have massive acreage that's burning right now in Oregon, Washington, and California, and it's creating terrible air quality. I know that I live in Portland, Oregon, and if you go outside right now, the sun looks like a little orange ball in the sky, and that's because you're viewing it through all this particulate matter. So with wildfires, what you get is there's different classes, different sizes of ash and particulate matter in the air. They term it things like PM10 and PM 2.5. So the 2.5 and the 10 refer to the size of the particle, and the smaller is the worse, in the sense that the smaller particles can diffuse into our lung tissue deeper. And we have tremendous PM 2.5 counts in Portland, Oregon right now. And we have over, at this point, probably about 1,000 square miles that are burning, which is a tremendous amount of forest lost and tremendous amount of ash being put in the air. California, this is one of the worst fire seasons in record. So all down the western states, we have this terrible ash in the air. It's affecting. We've already had to stay inside because of COVID, and now we have to stay inside because we have so much particulate matter flying around. So it's not a matter of is it unsightly? Does it smell like someone's barbecuing? It's actually toxic. It's hazardous to your health. And so really, we all need to stay inside. For my family, luckily, I'm a naturopathic doctor. I think about air quality all the time. So I have two air filters in my home that are constantly cranking. Well, I crank those up because we have young children in the house. I want to make sure the air inside is as clean as it can be. We're not letting them play outside right now. They're not going in the pool. Those things are just off limits right now. Beyond that, I would say, for my 2 cents, that there are certain nutrients that are helpful for supporting the lungs. The principal one is called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It's an amino acid that's an antioxidant for our lung tissue. So all of this particulate matter, one of the things it does is it actually can block diffusion of oxygen into our lung tissue, but then also it's inflammatory for our lung tissue. So something like NAC is incredible for supporting that lung tissue. Any of your antioxidants are, like vitamin C, vitamin E, they're all great, but I would put NAC at the top of the list in terms of a nutrient to support us during this time.
Yeah, I don't really, I'm in Southern California, we're in LA. And what's interesting about this fire versus the one that we had a whole bunch last year, I could smell it a lot more last year. It smelled like a barbecue, it smelled like ash. This one I don't smell so much, but I can't see any clouds at all, and we also are seeing just the that kind of orange sun. Is that because the size of it is smaller?
Particulate matter. That's the particulate matter that's kind of blocking your vision. So it's there. It just might be more of this fine 2.5 particulate matter. You can Google this and actually see what is the PM particulate matter 2.5 in Los Angeles, and you give you a count. And then you can pick a random city on the East Coast, and then compare it, and you can see that it's dramatically higher on the Western cities.
Right.
What else can you do? It sounds like, so when you're looking for an air filter, is there like any ones that are better than other ones? I mean, it sounds like I hear you saying staying inside,
yeah,
an air filter, taking some NAC. What else do you guys recommend?
Rob, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Dr. McAllister, you did a great summary on everything, so I don't have a lot to answer. I would maybe add that you could, magnesium could be another supplement to take. It has a lot of benefits, but it can sort of relax smooth muscle and prevent your lung tissue from overreacting to the smoke. In some ways, it's an appropriate reaction if your lungs are having a bit of a hard time, but if you're feeling uncomfortable at all, that can be something. I would also add, as you said, unfortunately, we're used to kind of hunkering down and being inside. We're also kind of used to wearing masks. So if you do have to go outside, the masks won't block out everything, but you might as well wear a mask for that as well. And then I would also just say that when times get better, it could be, certainly exercise in order to stay in shape is the best thing that you can do. But also if you're stationary or you're at your desk or at work, I like to do breathing exercises a few times a day. It's kind of a meditation practice as well. And I just breathe. I'll take the opportunity now because fortunately we have an air filter as well. So the air in here is pretty good. Otherwise, I don't recommend the deep breathing exercises in the midst of the smoke. But I usually just do 10 deep breaths in and out and just all the way down into my stomach. So it doesn't necessarily have to be fancy or meditative. You can follow different practices that are out there and incorporate a meditation component to it as well. But then you get the mind component. Bianca, you might be able to speak with to this a little bit too, because there's an anxiety component as well to all these fires, obviously. So you get that mind component of sort of grounding and centering, as well as just physically moving those lungs and helping with some of that buildup that Dr. McAllister was talking about, and being able to kind of get that out on a physical level.
Mhm.
I think that's such an important point, because I think that, when we're dealing with things, like coronavirus and like these incredible fires, it really brings up anxiety for people, because obviously our safety is at risk and we really feel a lack of control. And so, Rob, what you're saying, where you're taking the time to do something for yourself, or, with the breathing, or, Keith, with, taking NAC or getting an air filter, or like the magnesium, all of these things are things that we can do that can help us. And I think sometimes, look, we're always balancing the fact that I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the world and we lack control in certain ways. And then what are the things that we can do that give us a sense of having some kind of control, ability to direct our life and to impact our well-being. And so, I think fire is so fascinating to me, because having lived in Topanga, where, Rob, I know you are, a couple of years ago, and experiencing fire and having to evacuate, that was the first time. I come from the East Coast, so that was never even familiar to me. I mean, it is really terrifying, and it gave me such like a respect for like the power of, of Mother Nature. And I just think that there's something really primal that comes up in us as a fear. We all sort of have this impulse to survive, right? It's like our bodies innately, our psyches innately want us to, survive, and to have your life really threatened because of fire is like such a big thing to witness. I'm like, man, that really brings up some primal fear, and I'm seeing it in a lot of people. It makes us, I think, realize it's like standing, on a cliff overlooking the ocean, kind of how small we really are.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it can be comforting, like you said, to have some control, do what you need to do, center yourself, but that balance between what you can control and what you can't control is a fine balance. But you're right, it makes it real when you're looking around. When anywhere you live in the West, in the summertime, you look around and see that it's a bit of a tinderbox. But when you're close, like in Topanga, and you see that it could come any minute, the winds change, makes it a lot more real that way. But I would also say, and it's a bit off the topic, that I don't know if anyone's read a book called 1491, but it's a great book about how the Americas were before Columbus, essentially in 1492. And it's a new look at, from a different perspective that I think that we've all had in our typical education. But one of the things that Native Americans did from North America to South America was to use fire in a way that was very controlled and very deliberate, and actually had a lot more impact on the landscape than we realize. And I would just say, fortunately, I know California is starting to make those moves toward more sustainable forest management, because fires have been around forever, and we've actually prevented them from happening because we've been moving into the mountains and so forth. And so we actually need fire, otherwise the undergrowth and everything's going to build up and then create these giant fires when they do happen. So I'm inspired to see that that's happening as well.
Mm. And I would just add from another holistic perspective on this is, in Chinese medicine, we often look at the 5 elements, and obviously fire is the fire element. And a great way to put out fire or to limit it may be water. So for us to stay more hydrated, or doing juicing, green juicing, or just any like mineral-rich drink, like I know Emergency may not have the best ingredients in, but it's something to consider. Or sometimes I like to recommend to patients something. It's a company's called Nutson's, and they have a recharge drink, which is kind of like a healthier Gatorade, because I'm not really a fan of Gatorade at all. But that, or coconut water, or any time of electrolyte-rich drinks. We just did some good green juicing just over this past weekend, and it felt great to go to the farmer's market, which was only, it just started to open up again where we are. And I just got a bunch of greens and some things to make it a little sweeter, with like, carrot, and we put in like parsley, kale, and, a little dandelion root, and put in some ginger also to help balance some of the flavor so it's not so bitter, and a little bit of apple. And you can do some green juicing, which might be helpful to detox some of the burden that's coming into the lungs and through the body from the smoke. So I would say juicing or water, or I even see in the background with Dr. Krochmal, like a big green plant in your home. So like not a plastic one. Plastic ones
Right.
don't do anything.
You can see different leaves falling every week. So.
No. It looks healthy to me. But like, just so we can get some oxygen, because they're our partners, they're our friends. We give it the carbon dioxide it needs, and it gives us oxygen we need. And the fires seem to be consuming a lot of the oxygen. You can even hear my voice a little bit. I just like it makes the lung qi weak, because you're struggling a little bit more to breathe because the air isn't so clean. So if you need to rest more, then also rest. I think rest. I spent a good part of yesterday when I got home from work. Just needed to rest. Not that I had a full-on migraine, which is something that I do suffer from, but I just felt not a sinus congestion like a common cold, but I just felt like a stuffiness in my head, and I think it was because of the fires. So if the body needs to rest or more hydration, and listen to your digestion, that if your body's saying, don't feed me, like don't put more food in me because I'm already sort of struggling, to get by with what's at me right now, then you might need to miss a meal, or something like that, and take extra rest. So those are some things I've been doing a little bit more in the last just couple of days, because that's all we've only had these fires that have really been cranking up here on the West Coast just recently. Any other thoughts? That's kind of my takeaway recently.
I have one more thought, and this is just like a practical matter, that what the fires bring up for me is that all of us should have somewhat of an emergency plan for our families. Mm-hmm. That we should all have, and fires may be a special case in the sense that there may be a specific evacuation route, as it would be like a tsunami or something like that. But to have, in case families get separated, having a meeting point, having an agreed upon meeting point. If you get separated, if you can't find each other, you will plan to meet at this specific location. Also, in each of your cars, having what they call a bug out bag, which is essentially, emergency supplies. It's water, it's like, one of those emergency blankets, it's enough food for 3 days, matches. It's just like a supply bag in case stuff hits the fan and you have to get in your car and take off, with your family and pets maybe. So I think from a practical standpoint, like, natural disasters happen. We're not insulated from them. This is a natural disaster. Earthquakes happen, right? It was only less than 40 years ago that Mount St. Helens erupted. I mean, things happen. And so being prepared for it, even though it seems like science fiction, it's not. That things are going to happen in our lifetimes that will have seemed implausible. Already this year, things have happened in my lifetime, our lifetimes, that didn't seem possible before. Our lives have radically changed in new ways, and this is another facet of that. So being prepared for, not in a paranoid way, not in a doomsday prepper way, but like things are going to come up and you might as well, be prepared for that. It won't hurt. It'll cost you $30 and you have a little bag in the back of your trunk. And to me, that gives me some peace of mind.
Well, that's all the time we have today. If you have a topic you would like to learn more about, let us know with a comment on social media. And also don't forget to subscribe to our The Well YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us, and please join us next time for more wellness tips. Remember, regardless of where we are, our resources in The Well are limitless.